Hey guys, welcome back to a kind of stressful video for me because I've never done anything like this before, but also I'm excited because I've been dying to do this for a very long time. I am attempting my very first thrift flip in this video, which I technically did not thrift this. I got off Facebook Marketplace, but I feel like that's the same thing. It's just a little more coordinated. But I've never done anything like this before. I've always wanted to try thrift flipping pieces, but I've just never really been in a position to be able to do that, and also where it makes sense. If you're new and you don't really know my lore, for lack of a better way to put it, I lived in college apartments that came with furniture up until this apartment I'm currently sitting in. And so it just didn't make sense to try to bring my own furniture into the place and thrift flip pieces to add to the apartment because it came with furniture and I was a broke college student. So it just didn't make sense, but I always wanted to try it. And now that we're in this space where everything is ours and we furnished the whole place ourselves so we can kind of do whatever we want with it, I'm trying this for the first time. So the piece behind me, I'll explain more why I'm doing this and what it's going to be used for, but it is currently sanded and primed. So I'm now in a position where I can paint it. So a couple days ago was when we finally decided to start on this project because we've had this piece for a little while now. We got it off Facebook Marketplace for $10, which I feel like is a really good deal because it's in pretty good condition still. It's just this short bookshelf that when we first got it was kind of like a orangish brownish wood color, like fake wood pattern, and I did not like the color obviously, but I liked the structure of it. So we snatched it up for $10 off Facebook Marketplace, and now we have ourselves a little project. Just a little disclaimer, again, this is my first time ever doing this. I am not an expert. I honestly didn't even watch any thrift flip videos in prep for this. I just relied on my memory because I've watched a million of those types of videos before because I love those types of videos. So I basically am just relying on my memory from watching all of those and just assuming I know how to do it because I've seen all of those. So definitely don't use this as a reference for how you should go about a project like this if you've never done it before, because I did not prep for it. I did not do any research. I was just I know how to do it, and here we are. So hopefully nothing goes horribly wrong. So far it's going all right. We sanded it down and then primed the whole thing. It's freezing, but we gotta get this project started so that we can finish it and get all this stuff out of our front room. So we're gonna try. I'm gonna hope I don't get spray paint on my comfy, but I can't wear anything else because I'm freezing. Step one, sand. He's taking out his anger on the cardboard box.
Is that recording?
No, unfortunately. He's taking out his anger on the cardboard box because the Gators are playing badly in the SEC semifinals championship thingy. Look at the dog! Look at the dog! You want to come out? It's too cold. She said, "Now I'm good right here."
Feels the air.
I got a spray paint primer because I just figured it would be easier to coat the whole thing without bumps and brush strokes that might affect the texture of the piece later. And we ended up having to take apart the whole piece. I was just going to be a little bit lazy about it and sand it and prime it when it was already put together. But we realized that the people who had this piece before us didn't build it the best way. It was built upside down. You know how with pieces like this that are just sold in the box and you just assemble them from IKEA or Target or wherever you get any furniture like this, there's always the finished edges and the rough edges, unfinished edges that don't have the final pattern coat on them, and you have to make sure all those sides are down or facing the back or whichever way they're supposed to be facing so you don't see them. They had done the opposite. The side panels, these ones here, this top piece was the bottom. So it was unfinished and rough. So we ended up just taking the whole thing apart. And since it was apart, we figured it'd be easier to sand and prime that way anyway. So we did all that first, and then I just put it back together. with this random piece that I did not put back because I think they added this on their own because there's like no spots to screw it in because again, they built it upside down. So the holes that they had screwed into that piece through are now on the bottom because I flipped it the right way and put it back together the right way. So I think they just added that themselves. And I'm not really sure why, but I decided not to put it back. So we'll see if I change my mind and put it back later, but I don't really know why we would need it. So anyway, this is where we're at with the project now. It is sanded, primed, put back together correctly, and now we get to move on to painting it. So the way I envision this, I want it to look like it's wood, but obviously it's not because I'm painting it because I didn't like how it looked before, but I want it to still look like wood if you don't look too close and just like see it from afar and don't know that I painted it. Now, I don't know if this is as easy as it sounds in my head. Maybe I'm totally overestimating my skills or underestimating how difficult this is going to be. But I basically just got a bunch of different shades of brown because I wanted to be a very light shade of wood. So I got this beige color from Apple Barrel. It's just acrylic paint, very basic. And I got a few of these because I imagine this being the base coat of the whole thing basically. Because that's like, I mean, I know it's really light, but that's like what I want. I want it to be a very light wood. So that's kind of like the base coat. And then I got khaki and chestnut, also from Apple Barrel, as darker colors that I can use to kind of add like those wood grain textures and that wood look. And then I just got this very basic like painter's brush. I wanted one like this that's like kind of scraggly on the ends because I think that will help me get that wood grain texture. But I didn't consider the fact that first I have to paint the whole thing just like one solid color as the base coat. So I'm hoping that this still like paints okay for that, but we'll see. So yeah, that's the plan. I'm just gonna start out with base coat of beige. I have 3 of these little bottles because I couldn't find big ones of it. I got everything on Amazon and I'll explain why in a second because I have a bone to pick with all the hardware stores, but I'm hoping that this is enough and I didn't underestimate how much paint I'm gonna need to coat this whole thing. I also of course have my latte back here because I can't function without at least one latte every afternoon. So I'm gonna get painting, and then as I'm painting the base coat, I'm gonna explain kind of like what this piece is even gonna be used for, why I'm doing this, and all that fun stuff. As I mentioned, I'm a complete amateur at this, so as you probably can tell, I like fully missed this side priming it. Hopefully that's not a big issue. Okay, initial reactions. This paint is very thin and sheer. So I'm already stressing that I'm not gonna have enough because it's gonna take a lot of coats to cover this up. Also, as expected, this brush is great at adding that like liney texture that I'm going to try to recreate the wood grain texture with, which is good, but I don't necessarily want it in this initial coat. But this is the only brush I have because I didn't think about that at the time. But maybe that's okay. I mean, the more lines, the more it looks like wood, right? Alright, we're gonna need a lot more than that. Also, this brush is like kind of shedding, which is great. I mean, everyone wants little brush hairs stuck in their furniture, don't they? Oh, also, in case anyone's wondering, the reason I put it back together before painting it is because, like I said a million times already, I want to make it look like wood, and I want to make sure it's like cohesive throughout the whole piece. And I feel like if you paint each slab individually, you might like mess something up so that it's like the wood grain isn't going the right way or something. So I wanted to paint it all together so that that doesn't happen, hopefully. Alright, so what the heck is this piece and what am I planning on doing with it? It is just like a tiny little bookshelf, but I am using it or hoping to use it as a little shoe shelf slash bench for our entryway. So I guess this video is kind of like the start of a little makeover series in our apartment, which I'm really excited for because I've never really done anything like this before for the reasons I mentioned earlier. But basically, our apartment has a very narrow entryway, like basically just a hallway with a bathroom on the left, bedroom on the right, and then it leads into the kitchen and the rest of the apartment. So it's very small. And right now, we currently have a shoe rack and a coat hanger squeezed into like the little nook that's in that entryway area where we can fit anything. And basically, I've hated it since we moved in, but it was like functional enough that we didn't prioritize fixing it because we didn't want to spend the money. Whenever I'm reaching to this side to paint, my head might get cut off because I have to kind of get taller. Anyway, so the shoe shelf and the, why do I keep forgetting the name of it? Coat hanger thing that we currently have over there, it was like functional enough that we didn't bother doing anything different for the first several months that we've lived here. But now that we've been here for quite a bit of time and the moving expenses are kind of in the past because we've been here a little while now, we finally are starting to work on that area because I've hated it from the beginning. I've hated it since we moved in, and I've been wanting to come up with a better solution for that space for quite a while now. So I'll put like some inspo photos on the screen of what I want to try to like mimic in our space through lots of DIY and hacks. And you can kind of see like what light toned wood I'm going for. We'll see if I can pull that off. Now, the reason I'm choosing to fully DIY it like this and not just like buy a unit is because I've looked for hall trees, which I learned that that's what they're called in my search for them. It's basically a hall tree, if you don't know, is basically just like it's like that built-in storage looking thing. Not built-in because you buy it separate. What am I saying? It's made for the front room entryway area of a home where you want to store coats and shoes and stuff, especially if you live like in areas where it's like rainy or snowy and gets colder, like you have seasons. It gives you somewhere to like store your coats and stuff so that they're right by the front door, so it's easy to grab on your way out and hang up on your way back in so you don't have to track through the house. So they usually come with like a bench that usually has like some sort of storage, like a shoe shelf or like an actual like inner storage inside the bench. And then attached to that, going like up the wall, is a back wall that has hooks on it so you can hang coats and stuff. I don't know why I bother explaining stuff like that, because it's like I could just put a photo on the screen and say absolutely nothing and you would understand its purpose. But anyway, I looked into those and there are nice ones that are very expensive. Obviously I wasn't a fan of those, so I was looking for like cheaper ones on Amazon, even Facebook Marketplace too. But even the cheapest ones are like $80 to $100, and they don't look that nice. They don't look that sturdy. And so it's kind of like, why spend that much money on one that like probably wouldn't last that long and wouldn't work the best? But then I don't want to spend like hundreds on a really nice one because it's just a lot of money. So that was where the thought process came to try like DIYing it myself. And here we are. I will say this has been an insane process because this is my first time ever actually using Facebook Marketplace, like legitimately. Like I feel like I've looked on it before, just never like found any success and then never bought anything from it. But I knew like if I wanted to justify putting in the effort of like DIYing it myself, it needed to actually be worth the labor, I guess, in terms of how much I'm paying. So like if I'm gonna like buy furniture and buy paints and stuff to do this on myself, it needs to be significantly cheaper than if I just bought one of the cheap units on Amazon for it to be worth the time and the hassle, especially because we don't have a car. So if I want to pick up a piece of furniture from someone on Facebook Marketplace, they need to be within walking or transitable distance. And then we basically have to lug a piece of furniture in our wagon, which is what happened. So because of that, I knew I needed to like find something cheap on Facebook Marketplace. And obviously, like if I found a hall tree or a bookshelf that was, or a shoe shelf or something that was in really good condition and did look exactly how I wanted it to look, I would have snatched it if it was a good price. But those types of things don't typically land on Facebook Marketplace because people don't get rid of stuff that looks really nice and brand new. So I assumed that there would be some DIY involved, but I was excited for the challenge because, again, I've always wanted to do something like this and never have. So at least I can now. But I will say, if you've never used Facebook Marketplace before, or maybe you're like kind of new to it like I am and you're like using it for the first time around the time you're watching this video, let me warn you, it is a grind. Like, the number of people I reached out to who were supposedly selling pieces that could just completely ghosted me, unbelievable. I'm trying to give you money and I'm trying to take an old piece of furniture off your hands that you don't want anymore. Why is it so hard to get a hold of you? So it's like really frustrating. You cannot get your hopes up for anything. It basically, like, in the beginning, I was favoriting things that I was like, maybe this would work, but not my favorite, not my first pick. And then only reaching out to the people I was really, really serious about. But in the end, I ended up just reaching out to anyone that like maybe could possibly work. Even if I wasn't 100% sure yet, I like still reached out because the number of people that just don't answer you, it's ridiculous. So you can't be too picky with what you get. So I basically just reached out to anyone that had any piece that looked like it could possibly work for my project and ended up with this piece and actually one other piece that I'll be doing in a future video, but this is the one I'm most excited about. So yeah, that's how we ended up with this guy. It was not easy and it took so many rejections and just complete ghosting until I finally got something. Also, pet peeve of mine. Oh shit. I probably shouldn't be wearing this hoodie. Hold on, I'm gonna go change because I actually really like this hoodie and I don't want to get paint on it. That was dumb of me. Okay, I wanted to wear a sweatshirt because it's kind of cold in here, but it's probably smarter to just wear a tank top so that I don't get paint on the sleeves. Anyway, where was I? Yes, my pet peeve. If you're listing a piece of furniture on Facebook Marketplace and you actually want to get rid of it, freaking put the dimensions in the description. Like, the number of people, I'm such a mess. The number of people who would list pieces of furniture on Facebook Marketplace with no dimensions, and then I would reach out to them and say, do you have the measurements for this piece? And they just never answered me. I'm like, how are you expecting anyone to buy this piece if they don't even know how big it is and you're not going to tell them? Like, I'm not going to waste time out of my day to go see it in person and then realize, oh, it's too big or too small and then just leave. Like, I want you to tell me ahead of time. I feel like any reasonable person would. Anyway, huge pet peeve of mine. Facebook Marketplaces were really getting on my nerves there for a bit, but we succeeded. We ended up with something. Thank God. It took forever, but here we are. We made it. Oh my gosh, this has turned into such a ramble. I haven't even told you like what this piece specifically is for. You've probably figured it out by now, but this specifically is going to be a shoe shelf bench. So as I mentioned, we do already have a shoe shelf in the front room, but it's literally just that. It's a shoe shelf. It can support like probably 10 pounds, maybe, not even. And it's low to the ground. It's very small. It's very cheap and kind of crappily made. So it is not meant for anyone to sit on. It can't be sat on. And that's something that's actually driven me crazy that I didn't realize would drive me crazy is when I'm trying to put my shoes on, especially like now in the winter, I can't just do slip-ons. Like I'm putting boots on that I have to like lace up and tie or whatever. I like can't sit anywhere. So it's really annoying. And maybe I'm just being high maintenance or picky, I don't know, but I think it's really annoying. So the benefit of this is it will be a shoe shelf, but it will also be able to be sat on as a bench to put your shoes on. So that's what this is going to be. I also have like a really tall, narrow bookshelf that I also wanted to make over in a future video to also use in that space. And my intention with that is to have like baskets on the shelves that can hold other things that are very convenient to have by the front door, but obviously are not all going to fit on this tiny shoe shelf, especially like Suki's stuff. So Suki has like some coats because it's been freezing and she's a short-haired dog. So she needs coats when we go outside. She also has a muzzle because she is not the most trustworthy dog when passing other dogs or strangers that just don't pass her vibe check. So she has to wear a muzzle. And so it's like all that stuff is currently hanging on the coat rack, but it is like that coat rack is overflowing. Like it's literally fallen over multiple times because everything on there is just too heavy for it to hold up. So I got that bookshelf hoping we can get like little bins to go in the shelves to hold like her jackets in one, her muzzle and leash and harness and stuff in another, and like, I don't know, even just other things that would be nice to have by the front door that you don't want like out and about that everyone can see, like sunglasses or gloves and hats. I'm mostly thinking for the winter because it's currently winter, but stuff like that, like stuff that it'd be nice to have by the front door so that you don't have to like go grab it every time from your bedroom or your closet or whatever. But oh, that's probably a result of me not properly priming that area. I don't know if you can see that, but the paint is peeling off a bit. It's okay. It's okay. Anyway, stuff that would be nice to have by the front door so you don't have to run and grab it from your closet every time. But obviously, we don't want it to look cluttered. So I think that will be a nice addition to the space for stuff like that. Okay, I gotta move to this side so I can like actually paint some of these sides. Okay. Update on the painting. Looking very light. I'm gonna need a lot more coats. I'm also wondering if maybe I should even start mixing this with like one of the darker browns because this is a little bit lighter than I was expecting. But also I'm gonna be using the darker browns to add wood grain texture. So like maybe I don't, like maybe this base coat is good that it's so light because those are gonna add like the darkness and the depth. I don't know. But this paint bottle feels like it's like halfway gone already. Great. The reason I got a bunch of small ones instead of one giant one or multiple giant ones is because I got all this shit off of Amazon because, as I mentioned earlier, I have a bone to pick with all these brick and mortar hardware stores. Like, I can't justify buying anything there. Everything is so overpriced, and like part of me feels bad because I'm like, they probably have to price it like that because, I don't know, you know, profit margins and whatever, like they're trying to make a profit too. But I'm like, I just cannot justify it in my head. So when we were shopping for this project, we went to this Ace Hardware around where we live, and I had a whole list of stuff I wanted to look for there, all this stuff that you see me using now, paints and sandpaper, primer, brushes, like all sorts of stuff. And it was just all so expensive. I was in shock. I was like, this is ridiculous. And then while we were standing there looking at all the stuff, we were looking on Amazon, and it was all so much cheaper on Amazon. So I'm like, I can't even justify spending that much money on their products when I can get the same stuff on Amazon for so much cheaper. So it was honestly annoying because I was like, we came all this way to get this stuff from the store in person so we could have it like that day. But like, it just wasn't worth the cost, especially because Amazon shipping is so fast that it's like, what, I wait like 1 or 2 more days and I have all the same stuff, but for way cheaper. Like, that's definitely more worth it to me. So yeah, that honestly made me really mad because I was like, I feel like I do so much less in-person shopping now because of Amazon. And anytime that I decide I want to do in-person shopping and I go and try to do in-person shopping, I just end up leaving with nothing because everything is so much more expensive than if I just get it online. So everything in this video that I'm using to make over these pieces was bought on Amazon because Ace Hardware was just ridiculously expensive. And that's also another reason why I'm using this like literally like craft store acrylic paint, because the only paints I could find at Ace Hardware were like legitimate like high quality paints for like walls that you would use to like paint entire bedrooms, which is fine. Like, I was gonna do that initially. I was gonna use that type of paint, but it was way more expensive than I realized. I don't know, again, like, I don't know if this is because it's Ace Hardware or if that type of paint is just more expensive than I realized, but it was so expensive and I was shocked. It was like $30 to $50 for one of those big cans. And I was like, what's the point of doing my own little DIY project if it's gonna cost me that much? And also, like, this doesn't need to be like a really high quality, like long lasting piece because it's just like a DIY. It's like mostly for looks and function. Like, nothing I'm doing to it in the DIY process has anything to do with the function of it. It's all aesthetic. So like the piece itself is already functional how I want it. I'm just like making it look prettier. So it's like I don't need the products that I'm using to make it over to be super high quality so that it is functional, because it already is without those products. They just need to be decent enough that like it looks nice. You know what I'm saying? So I decided to go with regular acrylic paint because it's way cheaper. But Amazon did not have giant bottles of these paints for sale, so I had to get a bunch of the little bottles. So that's unfortunate. I don't think I'm gonna have enough. I'm probably gonna have to order more, but hey, with the quick Amazon shipping, that's no problem. All right, all the main areas you can see are officially painted with one coat of this paint, but I need to do like the bottom sides of these shelves, even though like you'll rarely see them, just in case, you know? I don't want to give too much away for like the full makeover of the entryway and like what I'm planning on doing, because I want you guys to like come watch that video. But I am really excited because one thing I am gonna try is peel and stick wallpaper for the first time, which I know is like so like old news. Like everybody and their mother has done peel and stick wallpaper at this point. I never have. Again, for the same reasons I mentioned at the start of this video, like renting college apartments that are already furnished and that I'm only living in for a very short amount of time just doesn't make sense. So I've never had the opportunity or reason to use it, but I've always wanted to. And something I realized with a lot of like the inspiration I was looking at for these entryways on Pinterest is a lot of them like, you know, in legit houses are actually like built in and have that like shiplap in the background and like built-in benches and stuff. But I was thinking I could use wallpaper, peel and stick wallpaper, to kind of mimic that look without obviously actually having something built in, because I'm living in a renter apartment. So we're going to attempt that. I'm really excited. So I'm kind of picturing like peel and stick wallpaper, which I already have, but I'm not going to show you until that video. So you'll have to subscribe and come back for when I'm actually making over the whole thing. But peel and stick wallpaper for the wall, hooks for like the coats and stuff, and then this and the other piece of furniture I mentioned. Hopefully these two will match when I'm done with all these makeovers. And then yeah, that's like kind of going to be how it all comes together, hopefully. And hopefully it'll look decently similar to my inspiration photos on my Pinterest board, but for a fraction of the cost and not permanent. One thing I haven't gotten yet though for the makeover is I want to get like a little cushion to go on this bench so that like it's obvious that it's a bench and also just is more comfortable and looks cute. But I've been struggling to find it actually. I thought it was going to be a lot easier than it has been, because it's like, it's kind of like, you know, I need kind of a specific size. Like I don't mind if it doesn't fit perfect, but it needs to be close. But like they don't make cushions that are just like a random rectangular size, you know, like, and I'm talking cushions, not just like a throw pillow, because like a pillow and a cushion, those are two very different things. So I haven't really been able to find anything on Amazon. I found some where you can like actually make a custom cushion, like enter the dimensions you need, choose the fabric, all these things. But then it ends up being a lot more money than I want to spend, because I don't actually care that much. I just want a cushion, but it doesn't need to be the exact size. It just needs to fit okay, that it doesn't look stupid. So I don't really want to do one of those custom ones. I'm even open to doing like 2 square ones that sit side by side if that's easier to find or cheaper, but I don't know, I just like haven't had any luck finding anything. Or even like just getting like a piece of foam, like almost like an insert for a cushion, and then just like wrapping it in whatever fabric I want to wrap it in, because that like literally just like hot gluing fabric around it. Like I know that sounds so like ridiculous and ratchet, but like if it works, it works. It's not like it doesn't need to be super high quality, you know? No one needs to know that I hot glued it instead of sewing it or whatever. But anyway, that's something I still have to figure out before that final makeover. But I still have to finish this and that other piece first, so we have a little while to think about that. Gosh. I think it's honestly going to be easiest if I just lay on the floor for this last part. So just give me a second. Okay. All right. one full coat over the entire piece, and I used almost this whole first bottle, which now that I'm thinking about it makes sense. Like I feel like that's kind of what I was expecting, which is why I got 3 of them. I'm thinking probably one, I hope just one more coat, but I don't know, this first coat's pretty thin. Maybe one more coat of just solid beige, and then after that I can start adding the wood grain texture, because that alone will probably add quite a few more coats, because it's going to be a lot of trial and error trying to get the look that I want. So I'm expecting that to coat it quite a bit too. So I'm thinking one more coat of beige, and then we'll move on to the texture. But I'm going to let this fully dry first. I could probably move on to this part, actually. I'll give it a few minutes to dry a little bit more, and then I'll move on to the second coat. And I feel like I've given you guys all the updates and like my plans and what I'm actually doing this for. So for second coat, we're just gonna time lapse it because I talk too much, and I will continue to yap if I don't turn this into a time lapse, because that's just what I do. Camera's rolling, it's not a time lapse, I'm just gonna yap. So let this dry a little bit longer and then give it a second coat. Probably since like 3, and it's like maybe I've been working on it for like an hour and a half. It's like almost 4:30. I wanted to give you guys a bit of an update. I think I'm gonna be tweaking it and just like painting a lot of layers like for a very long time to get it like perfect, but I wanted to give you an update. I don't know if the camera does it justice, but I feel like you can kind of see that it does kind of look wood grainy. I ended up just using the beige base coat and this khaki color because I poured out the chestnut and it looks a lot more orange than I was expecting. I thought it was going to be like a warm toned brown, but it is quite orange. So I don't think I'm going to be using any chestnut, which limits me a little bit, but I did, like, in my head, I envisioned a very light wood, like barely noticeable. So I feel like I'm achieving that with just the beige and khaki, but hopefully it's enough. I'm gonna keep messing with it though, because there's some spots where like I'm a little nervous to paint too much khaki and then I don't paint enough, or I go over it with the beige too much and then it like basically disappears. So this is not the final product, but this is where we're at. I'm gonna keep messing with it for a while, and then I will come back and update you guys probably tomorrow, because I don't think I'm gonna finish today, but here's where it's at right now, and we'll see how it looks tomorrow. All right, y'all, it's a couple days later. I spent probably another hour or two after the last clip you just saw finishing painting this that same day, and I think it turned out really good. I think I mentioned this in that clip, but I did not end up using the chestnut brown because it was much more orange than I was expecting. I feel like even through the bottle, it still looked like the color that I wanted to use, and then when I like poured it out, it looked very orange. So I didn't end up using that. So this is just beige and khaki mixed together, lots of coats, lots of trial and error to get the look that I wanted, but I feel like it's pretty much exactly what I wanted. If anything, maybe the wood grain texture is a little bit less noticeable, but also, if you could tell from my inspo photos, I was going for very light wood, like not super textured and noticeable. So maybe it's fine, I don't know. Regardless, I think it turned out pretty good, especially for this being my first time doing this. I feel like different areas of the piece I like better because, like, obviously with the way that I was creating the wood texture with the paint, it varies quite a bit depending on, you know, what I was doing slightly different each time. So like there are certain areas where I'm like, oh yeah, that looks really good. And other areas where I'm like, that's pretty good, but I like this spot better. But like overall, I'm pretty happy with it. I'm currently standing in our front room, but this is like the opposite wall. So right here in front of me is where the entryway area is and where we're going to be like making over the space. So I wanted to bring it over here to see it in this area and to kind of get it out of the way of the living room. But we still have one more piece to DIY before we can put the whole entryway together. I mentioned it earlier in the video, but I have a long skinny bookshelf that I need to basically do the exact same thing to, sand and prime. And then I want to create this same wood texture so that they look like they match. The only concern with that is we didn't realize when we were picking up the piece until we got a better look at it later when we brought it in, that the bottom looks like it's gotten some water damage. We got it for $5. So like, I understand why it was $5. But yeah, it looks like it's gotten some water damage. So we're talking about like trying to saw the bottom off, but we don't have a saw. And we don't have electric saws, and we don't have the money for an electric saw. So we would literally have to go buy a saw and hand saw it. I don't know if we're being too optimistic thinking we can pull that off, but we may try that. So stay tuned for a future video where I make over that piece. And then the final video in this little mini makeover series where I put the whole thing together. I'm really excited. I can't wait. I'm currently staring at our horrible entryway situation, and it is just awful. Like, I'm so ready to put this all together and solve this horrible problem we have going here. In terms of this piece though, it's all done. I only need now to look for a cushion to go on the top, as I mentioned earlier. I want this to be like a cute, comfy bench to sit on when you're putting your shoes on, so I want to find a cushion, but I just haven't really looked since that first time I looked, so I need to look again so that I have it in time for the makeover video. Another thing I considered doing, but then it just was going to make the cost a lot higher, so I ended up not doing it, but I figured I could in the future if I wanted to, but I was trying to keep the cost as low as I possibly could, I was considering putting a curtain rod and like one of those tension rods like right up here with a short curtain on it, kind of like, what do they call them? It's like a skirt or a cabinet skirt. Like they do them in kitchens. It's like an old thing that people don't really do anymore, I think. Someone fact check me on this, but like I don't think they really do it anymore, but it's like a thing that sometimes is done where you put like a little curtain. And I thought about doing that so that the shoes are hidden, so it's like not too messy looking and a little bit cuter and more put together. I might still do that in the future, but as of now, I'm not going to, because like the curtain rod was like almost $10, and then the curtains I found were like $12 or $15, which just like jacks up the price so much. And the whole point is to be doing this for way cheaper than if I bought a unit. So I decided that that's not 100% necessary, but maybe in the future, we'll see. So for now, I just need the cushion. But yeah, this is the final piece. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you are not disappointed by my final piece, because again, this was my first time doing it. I know it's very basic. I didn't change the structure much at all. I just painted it, but we take it one step at a time. I mean, the next piece I'm talking about freaking hand sawing it. So one step forward in each of these videos, getting better and better and doing crazier and crazier things, hopefully. Since I keep emphasizing how I want to do this for so much cheaper, blah, 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 I do kind of want to like figure out an estimate of how much this entire piece costs, because like I said, we got it for $10, but then like the materials on top of that to do the whole makeover, I kind of want to get like an estimate of how much we did this for, but that's going to be kind of hard because the paints and stuff that I got are kind of being used for this and that narrow bookshelf that I'm going to do soon. So I don't know how to get like an accurate estimate, but I'm going to try to put something on the screen of an estimate of how much it costs to make this. And I'll do the same thing for the bookshelf when I get around to that. And then I think it would be fun to put the entire entryway together and do the same thing for that. Like this entire project all together costs this much versus buying a whole tree. So if you're interested in seeing the rest of this journey, definitely subscribe and stay tuned for the next video. I'm not sure when it'll be because I gotta actually do it, but should be coming soon because we want to get this project finished.